Happy Father's Day. I hope that you do have a happy Father's Day, and I hope you can extend a happy Father's Day if you're so fortunate as to have your dad around. My dad's still here. He's in the house right now. He has dementia. He still recognizes me, but I learned yesterday that he's forgotten my mom, his wife. So if you got your dad, let him know what he did for you, will you? But here's the problem. I don't really feel qualified to even do this. In spite of the fact that I've got 4 kids and soon to be 15 grandkids, it's hard to feel qualified because imposter syndrome is part of fatherhood. Fatherhood opens to our views breathtaking vistas of our own inadequacy. And so here I am, pretending just because I have fathered and raised and taught 4 children, that I'm somehow qualified to give you any advice at all. Well, maybe I am and maybe I'm not. But ignoring the imposter syndrome, here's some things that I wish I would have known when I was starting out as a dad. First, how short the time is. I can remember thinking, or at least sensing, that the time available to be a good dad to these 4 little kids was going to be measured in decades. That was wrong. I should have been thinking that it was going to be measured in minutes and hours and maybe a few weeks. Because that's what it looks like now, looking back, that it was just moments. So Dad, if your kids are little and they've got the house in an uproar and they lose your stuff, and you can either have things or you can have kids. You can't have things and kids. You've learned that by now. And those of you who haven't had kids yet, don't let that dissuade you. I may have just sort of derailed this video. Because just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do this. It absolutely means you should do this because we grow into our full stature when we exhaust ourselves and deal with the imposter syndrome of raising up the next generation. Our fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers did it, and it's our job to do. It's a great job. So another thing that I didn't see coming is that no matter how much you give your kids, give. And I don't mean buy, but I mean give, because it's your time, right? It's your time. And they never feel like it's all they wanted. No matter how much you give them, it's not going to feel like it was enough. It's not going to feel like it was half enough. But it has to be, because there's only so much of us left to go around. And the fact is that any proportion of what you have to give, if you give it with your eyes wide open and meaning to make it count, is going to be enough. Now, to Amanda and Nate and Adam and Clayton, I'm sorry. I think I could have given more. And that's part of the imposter syndrome, which all 4 of you are recognizing now because you're parents. And so to all of you, you got to understand that if you're giving all you can, it's enough. Okay, so here's another thing, maybe the next thing, and it's closely related. One of my strengths is one of my weaknesses. In fact, it's one of my big strengths, and that is that I can hold things in my mind and spin those plates and keep track of quite a few things, and then I agonize over whether or not I'm going to fail, that any of those plates are going to hit the ground. So what that meant was that when I was with my family, my kids, in the car or on a beach or at a restaurant, I was there, but I wasn't very present. So dads, regardless of what your personality is, when you find the time or when life accidentally gives you the time with your kids, find a way to be present. Because a better metaphor than spinning plates is juggling balls. And some of them are rubber and some of them are glass. And the ones we have to keep track of are the glass balls. And if we miss one of the rubber balls, they're going to bounce. But being present with your kids and your grandkids when you are in close proximity to them is one of the glass balls. Okay, the next one. I think, is expectations, or more like people living out the opportunities that they missed or botched through their children, and pushing and encouraging their kids to be that sports star, or ride those horses, or be that debate team captain, or whatever it is that Scott wishes he would have done. Maybe he can leverage his kids into doing that, and he can get that vicarious satisfaction. That always ends in shipwreck. Always. So be heads up and self-aware enough, situationally aware enough, to keep track of the expectations you place on your children, because they have to have some expectations if they're ever to rise, if they're ever to learn to excel. They have to have expectation and accountability. But unreasonable expectations will embitter them and burn the bridge that you have built in their childhood that you want to last into their adulthood. Okay, so personality and the upbringing of you and your wife is going to shape how much discipline you bring to raising your children. I've learned there's not just one model for this. Some people train dogs beautifully on a short lead, and some people train dogs beautifully on a long slack lead, okay? And it can be the same with kids. And the 180-degree opposite can be true too. You can wreck a good dog with a tight lead, and you can create a dog that is a nightmare if you never pull back on a leash at all, and they run and they jump on there. It's the same with kids. Too much discipline stifles and cripples and stunts. And too little discipline stifles and cripples and stunts. So please be wise when you decide which discipline model you're going to bring to your role as dad. So wrapping this up, I guess I love to work. My mom and dad taught me to love to work. And so by all means, teach your kids to work, to like it. It's important, but it's not the only important thing. And here's where I fell down, is that humans can be shaped to where they are only happy if they're working. But man, if that is all that life consists of, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I will say all work and no play makes Jack a bad dad too. So be wise, because kids are naturally prone to goofing off. You got to allow some slack for goofing off. There's got to be a little element of wildness and spontaneity, tempered by and making effective the powerful element of focus and consistency and reliability and trustworthiness and productivity. So be ye temperate in all things. And then as I think about this, maybe the thing that I am most grateful to my dad, even though faith, the Christian faith of our family, was so easy for my mom and just a little bit less easy for my dad, but he still embraced it in a way that I could tell as his son was real. He wasn't faking it. He was a little awkward, and it was a strain for him to really lean into faith. But it's been the defining blessing of my life that my dad showed me that God is real, that He cares about His children, and that a life that includes that is the way life is intended to be. Now, even if you're not a person of faith, there are values, there are morals, there are foundational principles that tend to happiness and fulfillment. Those are the things to make double darn sure that your kids carry with them into their lives. And they will do that if they saw clearly and unmistakably how important it is to you. So as I back out of this, let me go back to kind of where I started and acknowledge the imposter syndrome that is associated with being a dad sometimes, or can be. That's associated with any hard thing where other people are going to have something to say about what we do. If you're leaning into your role as a dad, if it matters to you, if you have embraced the notion of having to sacrifice something that you don't prefer to sacrifice in order to do better as a dad, then probably what you're doing is enough. And probably in the future your children will look back and bless you for what you did for them. But you can answer for yourself if it's not. If you know that you're goofing off, if you know that you haven't identified the fact that it's the most important thing you're ever going to darn sure do, and if that's the case, well then stop it and just do better. And look around and find somebody that even though they have imposter syndrome, doggone it, they did something worthwhile. And find out what they can tell you. And read the books and listen to the podcasts and pray about it and think deeply about it and level up. And somewhere in the future, a future you is going to look back and say, whew, man, I'm sure glad that I figured that out. More or less. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman. Keep up the good work.